SBN Sports Business Now.
Hello and welcome to Sports Business Now Live. I'm Holly Koski, and SBN Live is a weekly wrap-up show talking about the latest stories on sportsbusinessnow.com. And you can join the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag SBNow. Joining me, as always, Jonathan Dusing and Jason Cole, founders of SBN and Row 27. What's up, guys?
Hi.
Hi, Holly. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
It's good to be back. It's been like 2 weeks since we, have done a show.
Yeah. We were in Orlando at the National Sports Forum and did some really great interviews, over 25 interviews, really, 29 to be exact. We interviewed Alex Martins, who is the CEO and president of the Orlando Magic, Andy Dolich, who is a legend in sports business, really, and some other really great people.
Yeah, lots of really interesting stuff.
Some great content, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And all those videos are up on our YouTube page. They're also on Sports Business Now a little bit.
Yep.
They are definitely worth watching, almost all of them.
They definitely give you a flavor for the value that NSF has.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was a really great event, Great job, Ron Seaver and the National Sports Forum staff. But then going to the big event this last weekend, which was this little thing called the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot to introduce Ranger on air as well, our special guest Ranger. So.
I don't know if you can see him, but
well, you can.
A little bit
will.
on the
not on
white
that camera.
shot.
We can't see him.
Not on that. You will.
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, lots of great ads, as always, on the Super Bowl. But there was one that apparently exploded Twitter, or at least that's what you were telling
Calvin
me.
Klein, baby. That, at least on my timeline, it was, I mean, all the females were going nuts over that, but all the males were going over GoDaddy, so.
Well, not
Well,
really. I think everyone was going over GoDaddy.
I don't think that's an equal comparison.
That was just creepy.
Yours was attractive. Ours was just weird.
Yeah, I mean, good for that guy, though. They did like 46 takes, which is insane.
Really?
I'm sure he was responsible for messing it up 45 times.
He looked so flush, too, like in the commercial.
I think that was part of the
I know,
process.
it weirded me out. It was cringeworthy. But worst rated ad on the USA Today ad meter, but it also got the most social comments. So.
Well, I'd love to see sediment in those social comments.
Yep.
And, it really boils down. I think you were telling me this earlier in the week. I mean, GoDaddy always plays, let's get people to the site by any means necessary.
Yeah. They're not really playing the long game, so I don't think we'll hear about them in like 15 years. But did they get any sales out of the thing?
I mean, they actually converted a lot. You know, they had a ton of new traffic. It was like 400%, and then they actually converted a good chunk of those people into customers, which is a little weird to me. Like, all of a sudden I'll buy a website now. Like, that's not just a thing.
I know, it's weird that normal people do that now too.
And they have forever, but they have such good creative that they have done. I mean, they've done some creative that's not just straight exploitative or
their
awkward.
second one wasn't as good though, or
that wasn't. But I mean, this ad was the creepiest thing I've ever seen done in advertising.
Sure.
It was up there. I'm surprised it got approved. Because it was borderline.
My favorite ad was the Taco Bell ad.
Definitely
by Sure.
agree.
Or
Very
for
well
sure.
done.
Yeah, and it was a nice old school ad, just nice creative thing. So I'm not a huge fan of the Coke kind of stuff where they're like, we couldn't come up with anything, so you guys finish it for us. Yeah, crowdsourcing has been a poor excuse for lack of creativity too.
Lincoln.
So I was glad to not see tons of those. Yeah, Lincoln was interesting. They basically crowdsourced it with celebrities, though.
Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, Jimmy and a couple other people, but Jimmy Fallon had the Super Bowl one
Yeah.
because I follow him on Twitter actually, so he was kind of.
He's a good follow on Twitter.
Yeah, the idea was to find these mostly Twitter celebrities. Obviously, he's a real world celebrity too, but you got to have a good Twitter following. Lincoln hooks up with them. They talk about making their commercial for several months, and then try to kind of crowdsource, but not really. He basically just said, "My fans came up with this," but it was like
right.
They came up with like 10,000
His
fans.
writers
He just
came
kind
up
of
with this.
my writers. Yeah,
But
I think that was a good example of how to actually do it though, because it's like there's a nice filter between just total crowdsourcing and then you've got this professional group of writers and Jimmy Fallon in between. So I thought that was a good balance.
Neil Horowitz actually posted on our Twitter with a really good point, as there were not a lot of calls to action.
Yeah.
By the brands, which is very interesting. Oreo did it with their Instagram account. More on Oreo later. And then also, like you said, Coke. But that was definitely a missed opportunity.
Well, I don't think the Super Bowl is really perceived as a place to get a call to action. I mean, a call to action is like where, in the most blunt sense, I mean, it's like late night TV, 1999 by now.
There's varying degrees between that.
There's varying degrees from that. But I mean, the Super Bowl is like this giant international branding opportunity to put yourself in front of eyes and try to cut through the clutter and create an impression to, half of America.
Might as well capitalize on that, though.
Yeah, and it really accentuates the difference between branding and selling.
True.
100%.
So some people mix them up, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, but capitalize. I mean, how many followers on Instagram did Oreo pick up? But within a day of the game, they're up 30,000. I mean, is that worth $4 million? Probably not. So I mean,
especially over
doing
Instagram,
a CTA is
kind of
doing a CTA at that level. I mean, it's hard to get provable ROI on it. So why go down that road?
When you're Oreo or Coke especially, I mean, you're a commodity. You're almost like milk. So. I mean, obviously there's other kinds of milk in Coke's case, but, you don't have to keep telling people about
or goat
Coke,
or what are you going for here?
You don't have to keep telling people about Coke, They need to appeal to people on, the other things that they enjoy. So
yeah, it's branding. I mean, that's how Coke became the two top beverages and not Pepsi, like had Diet Coke past Pepsi. I mean, it's straight up branding, and that's what they're trying to do with Coke Zero. If the
so I don't think. I guess the point is I mean, I think maybe we agree that maybe it's the call to actions are not super important coming out of the Super Bowl.
But that said, to segue to what's next, and I agree completely, call to actions in the Super Bowl are probably a waste. Capitalizing on social can take this free commodity and sort of ride the zeitgeist socially in a very effective way. And a lot of people attempted it, but Oreo
killed it. They were, I believe the term is newsjacking, where brands, take the news and kind of run with it in their own way. And the blackout was, 34 minutes, but they actually really capitalized on Twitter. Jason, you want to talk about that?
Sure. Within their agency actually had every single person in charge of the creative in the Super Bowl at it. So they're creative director's there, the art director's there, the brand director, everyone is in that exact same spot. And by doing that, when this blackout happened, they're able to execute creative and go through their entire approval process in a few minutes. Because that ad went live within, I think, 5 minutes or 6 minutes of the blackout actually happening.
Yep.
Which, is a remarkable turnaround, and that's the reason they're the most successful. I mean,
it's good. You do not see, big brands get anything done that quickly. And the reason they had all those people in the room is because they were making sure they were monitoring all their social channels so that they got the most out of their TV commercial. Even though, the TV commercial, I guess, had the call to action Instagram, but they still, even if it didn't, they still would have had these people to make sure that they didn't just leave it a one-way conversation. So it's a really good example for any brand. But
I think
it's amazing they can actually get it approved, quickly.
I would make the argument that the surrounding press of doing that they have had for days now, I mean weeks at this point in time, that they're heading into, worth far more than the actual ad.
Absolutely.
I mean, they got $4 million in PR simply by making that strategy choice and doing that inside of 5 minutes in a second.
Right.
And it's good to see in one foul swoop what Twitter and Facebook can be for brands.
Yep.
And it's not as much like the ads you buy on Twitter, the ads you buy on Facebook. It's how you utilize the free part of all of it. And that's something I think all, sports teams, our clients and viewers, can take from that. And newsjacking is definitely one of them. I know we've seen some examples in the past. I can't think of any of them. But,
well, there's another one at the Super Bowl that stuck out to me, and that was Lexus. Tweeting Mercedes at Mercedes-Benz USA. It was Audi at Mercedes-Benz USA, like, hey, we'll send over some LEDs.
Walgreens also did that too. We have candles, we sell candles. But I think what made Oreo stick out was A, their response time, and B, that they had a graphic associated with it, which I think is super important.
Yeah.
And it was a cute kind of slogan, you can still dunk in the dark. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was memorable. Obviously, we both remembered that. So
done well. Yeah.
Very good job on Oreo, and kind of a good model for companies to have in the future here. But despite the blackout, still got a crazy rating. Most watched event in television history, once again. Almost a 48 rating by Nielsen, which is pretty incredible given, like I said, the blackout. And then Twitter was no different. 24 million tweets just about the game, the halftime show, not even including ads.
Commercials, yeah.
So very great stuff.
Well, it was a good game, too, so that helps.
Definitely.
At least, towards the end.
Definitely.
The second half.
And then so Super Bowl
and
47.
I think you know the stat, but it was something like their streaming was up quite a bit from last year.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Revenue-wise,
it was CBS looks to bring in about $10 to $12 million in terms of ad revenue on their live stream, whereas NBC did like $3 million last year. So that's an interesting possibility for the future, how they can further monetize the live stream.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily how they're monetizing this event, which has so many people on free TV and is this giant thing, but taking the best practices or what was successful here and figuring out how you monetize those lower value events.
Right.
yeah.
And like when we were talking earlier this week, like how do you make ESPN3 or Division III lacrosse, that sort of thing, begin to drive revenue?
Because like ESPN3 doesn't do too much of that, so
not a ton.
When it goes to the commercial break.
Just kind of have trivia questions instead of ads.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see more and more of that, and because, well, streaming's always interesting because you can measure the whole thing, like when you besides the Super Bowl, that's the only one where people are watching the ads, but normally you don't know if anyone's watching it if they're just fast forwarding it. Right. So that's why streaming is always a little hard for advertisers to put money into because they don't actually like knowing the real results. Right. They want the fuzzy math that TV ads deliver. At least the ad buyers do, so they can act like it worked.
Well, it obviously.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Moving on
to the NHL. And Budweiser Canada, who actually introduced this on the Canadian telecast of the Super Bowl XLVII, and it's called the Budweiser Red Light, which is actually something really cool. It's this light, the same light that is on top of a hockey net whenever someone scores. It goes off, the horn blares. It's recreating that in your living room, which is incredible. It's all over Wi-Fi. And you use your smartphone to hook it up. Budweiser's selling this to Canadian residents, $149. Talk about cool.
I think it's awesome. I love these kind of connected devices, and I don't think we've really seen many in sports at all. And little Wi-Fi devices, and this kind of thing has gotten really inexpensive and disposable. And people all have Wi-Fi in their houses. I mean, not all, but wherever.
Decent amount.
A lot of them. So, these kind of things I'd love to see happening. I know one example, something that's been around for a while, there's a little glowing ball you can get that glows red or green depending on how your stocks are doing.
That could be really depressing.
It's always red.
It's always.
What's happening?
But I think anytime, I think it works really well with hockey because it's not like basketball or something where you're scoring every 2 minutes. If you're not even watching the game or if it's an away game, it's really neat for it to go off and remind you your team is going on right now. It's neat.
I mean, it'd be great for baseball,
Yeah.
So, like
Homers.
anything that's, every time a home run's hit. I mean, there's a lot of applications you can put your mind to.
And I was thinking just a real simple thing, just a team logo or something that lit up whenever your team was playing, just, so it was happening. Might be kind of neat.
Something that goes off every time your team wins.
Yeah, every time they win. That'd be good.
Yeah, just like.
What if you had a picture of Wrigley that went Cubs win?
Well, or like how the Wrigley.
Well, unfortunately, that's not happening very often lately.
But
well, whatever.
they put up the W flag once they win. It'd be kind of cool to have a signal in home over Wi-Fi, like their own little flag. It lights up.
I'd buy that.
That'd be neat if it went up the flagpole.
Yeah,
that's getting intense right there.
You could do all these things though, and for $150,
easy.
Yeah. And you'd sell a crap ton of them too. But it has. I think the team specific part is what makes it neat. So.
Oh, but I think Budweiser's. This is great, especially in Canada. If you live in the Toronto area, they'll come to your house and install it for you, which just
only in Canada.
It just adds to that.
That's just such a Canadian thing to do.
Definitely.
They'll also say they're sorry while they're doing it the whole time.
But yeah, check it.
So sorry to be in your house.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry it's taking so long. I know I've been here for 5 minutes.
All right, inside joke. But definitely follow their Twitter feed at Bud Red Lights.
I want one.
Some really cool stuff. hopefully they come to the U.S. because I would probably buy one. Let's just be real.
We'd put one in the office.
That'd be awesome.
Like
okay.
one for each hockey client going down the wall.
Sweet.
It'd be pretty cool.
Good stuff. And then now moving on to the digital realm with GetGlue. They have some really great updates to their app. And John, you want to take over that?
Sure, yeah, huge updates. So if anybody's familiar, GetGlue is a cool app. It's kind of like Foursquare, except for in Foursquare you're checking into physical locations. GetGlue allows you to check into like watching something, like a movie or a TV show. Actually always you've been able to check into a sports team, but now you'll be able to check into an actual sports game. Hey, nice to see you. Sorry. So what they added that's a really cool feature is now they have all the game data in there and schedules. So now you can check into not only the Phoenix Suns in general, you can check into the Suns versus the Knicks or whatever game you're watching. You can also check into specific episodes of TV shows that you like. But that the way they're bringing that in now, and they've got scores and stats and stuff in there too, makes just a better experience. And there's a little more, you can tell, obviously you see the numbers of how many people are checked into this game versus like just the Suns or whatever in general. And I know from talking to the Suns that they actually get more check-ins on GetGlue than they do on Foursquare.
Which I think is fascinating. Like, you wouldn't think that.
Yeah, because I didn't hear much about GetGlue before this year. Mm-hmm. But GetGlue just has such a wider demographic because of the whole TV. It really started on TV. That's all they had in the beginning. TV and movies, so it's not just the hipsters that are foodies and going out and traveling and going to places.
It's suburban America has like been their growth area as opposed to Foursquare.
Yeah,
right.
Which is probably better for the Suns.
Better for the Suns, better for them long term. I think it's great. I mean, that's the biggest thing that GetGlue's lacked is like when I check into let's see you check into the Grammys from last year on GetGlue until this update. You're just checking in and you see like 86,000 people in comments there, and you don't know how many people are currently in that rebroadcast or that current broadcast. By making this change, it's going to be much more social, and it's almost like you're going to be able to browse TV not by flicking the channel, but seeing like where people are at within the GetGlue app. I think they'll see a big uptick in usage, and it definitely sports is a phenomenal way for them to grow in that because so much of sports revenue is tied to people physically viewing right now. Yeah.
It does a lot more for the sports team, I think, than some of the other services. So, because it will, when you check into a game, it will basically remind you every time games happen, it's going to remind you on your smartphone.
Which is a great feature.
Which is great for the team, and then when you check in, you can put it out on Twitter and Facebook, and so people see it, and you earn badges and all kinds of fun stuff for watching the team. So I think it's a great product, and I think GetGlue is something that maybe not every sports team really spends any time thinking about. And now that they even changed their tagline, it's movies, TV, sports now.
Yeah, they added that sports.
Yeah, so I think it's something like teams should probably pay attention to now.
Yeah. I mean,
and encourage check-ins.
Every other company out there right now that's basically saying, oh, well, people can check into your broadcast, they don't have a user base. And I think that's the biggest thing for a sports team to understand right now. Like this year, as you see people pitch that concept to them, is GetGlue has 20+ million people active on the platform today. And that's the biggest battle anytime that you're doing something new like this is getting where the eyeball's at.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely have them on GetGlue, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So great stuff, guys, as always. Thank you for joining us. And
no problem.
Thank you for joining us. You can tune in to our YouTube channel to catch the replay or on sportsbusinessnow.com. We'll see you next week.
SBN, Sports Business Now.